Hi, Phil. I was typing up an email, and I thought, it might just be easier to show you a video. Picture's worth 1,000 words. I'm sure video's worth a million. So let's just take a look at your zone here. So let's look at it on the map here. So I like that. There's a lot of detail here. That's for sure. That's quite a lot of work. But we'll talk about this in a minute here. But as far as getting your green zones, incorporating all of the appropriate residential areas, no, that's great. That's perfect. Now, as far as how we use the checkboxes, I would in the long term, and you may want to do this after you've done all your zones, is go back in later and uncheck these show zone on map so you don't have all that green and orange, cluttering up your view and slowing down the interface. But we do want to show that they're stopped inside the zone, so that's right. We do want to see that the customer, that there's customer stops, so that's good. So 50-kilometer zone, spray truck 15 minutes, aeration 30 minutes, and idle 45 seconds. So that's good. That's perfect. Now, just looking at the orange zones that you've created here, there's a couple ways you can do this. I believe the way you have it done here is, I probably shouldn't have done that here. Edit. Okay, so you have show on map, show and stopped inside the zone, and add as customer time in reports. You could obviously, again, leave it show on map while you're drawing, later uncheck that to take it off. But as far as showing them when they're stopped inside the zone, or if to add as customer time, I would only do this if those particular streets happen to be streets that also have customers on them. Same thing with this, stop time 15 minutes, and aeration time 30 minutes. I don't think that's necessary unless, again, you believe that there are customers or potential lawns to be serviced on that street. And if there are, you should add this idle time 45-second max. And if there are not, then you should take off these things. And I'll show you what I did here. What I did is I created this example zone. And I left it to be shown on the map so you can see it. But basically all it is it's just a 60-kilometer-per-hour zone. And if we look at it on the map, you'll see it's this big, giant blue area. And I've encompassed the entire area because, again, all we want to do is check to see if there's 65 or 60-kilometer, well, I guess it's 65 is the violation point, but we just want to see if there's speeding inside this zone. So the fact that this zone covers the green area, well, that's no big deal because the trucks should only be going 50 in here anyway. So if they're going 60, the green zone rule is going to fire off. And if they're going 65, then, and the green and the, blue rule is going off, then, I mean, hey, that's really bad. So, but that's what I mean. That might save you some time. Instead of having to do all this little intricate work, you can just draw a great big zone around everything and not worry about the fact that it's covering multiple zones. Now, the only thing I would advise you is if you do have areas like, for example, in here, if any of these streets do in fact have houses along them and there's a chance that the trucks are going to stop, then yes, you would need to still define them as these orange zones and check off that, the 15-minute rule and the idling rule and what have you. Then in that case, you could draw a big, like, I'm just going to do it for an example. Let's just say that this is, in fact, this road is an area where you'd have residentials. So then instead of drawing this big giant zone, I would just simply draw, a zone along here. I'm just going to do it fast, but then I can still encompass all the other areas here, and I'm not necessarily worried about, again, overlapping with other areas. I won't close that zone there. And then I would draw a second one over here. And that way I don't have to spend all this time doing all this intricate work. And, so it saves you time doing it. And if there were other situations where there's, maybe I just want to do a real fast zone, here. So I'm not worried too much about overlapping into the green areas that would be here and here, because again, who cares? Because the trucks aren't going to be going 60 kilometers anyway. And I'm not saying that it's a I'm not saying that it's a customer zone that we're stopping inside. I'm not saying that the spray truck rule for 15 minutes is going to apply. And the reason we don't want to do that is we don't want to double up our rules, because if I'm going to create you a custom report, we want that report to be to have as minimal or zero false positives. And if we go back into the map, and if I said, for example, I put a checkbox in this blue zone saying idling 45 seconds, and someone stops in this green zone and idles for more than 45 seconds, well, then the green zone is going to fire off a rule error or rule violation, and the blue zone is going to fire off. So then it's going to seem like the guy made 2 idling violations in one day when in fact he only made 1. So even though we have other reports that would tell you the exact amount of idling being done, we don't want you to have to go look at that report every time you see someone, every time you see a bunch of idling on your custom report. Your custom report should give you a very accurate representation of what's happening in the field, but for that to happen, we have to make sure that we're not doing any doubling up here in the zones. So hopefully, I also like that you've got you've added this new zone type, these no-go zones. So let me know if you need a rule created so that we fire off a violation if the vehicles enter them. And otherwise, yeah, you're on the right track. I hope this blue zone example, and in your case, you would probably make it orange. But I hope it helps you to speed up this process, because I know this intricate work here takes some time. And again, take this same rule, and again, you have the 95 kilometer ones too. So this same rule of drawing a big, large zone over the area. So I would imagine this is like 105. So you wouldn't include this area, but you would include, all the other areas. And again, we don't care if there's green zones and orange zones inside of this larger area, because it's only going to be checkboxed to be speeding over 95 kilometers an hour. So, good. Oh, and if you'll notice that this zone is very light. I'm not sure if you prefer to have the let's go back into zones here. I'm not sure if you prefer to have the zones visible on the map, or if you're going to make them invisible later. But if you want them not to be so overbearing, you can go into the edit here, and there's this transparency bar where you can kind of dial it down a bit. So now it's not so prevalent on the map. Oh, which one was that? Did I get the right one? No, I didn't, but it's this one over here. So again, just however you want your visual interface. When the software has to render all these shapes and zones, it can slow things down. You have all this blinking that occurs, and it can be a little distracting. But hopefully you're not going to be looking at the map very often anyway. Hopefully our reports are going to keep everybody in line, and it'll be very infrequently that we visit the map. So anyway, I hope this helps, and let me know if you have any more questions.